Okay, this is going to be a tough one to do, but with that being said, Ukraine war is finally ending, and the right is celebrating, but the left is losing their mind. But even with that being the case, I'm not so sure if I'm on either side. Now make no mistake, CSO fam, I am most certainly glad that there are no more lives going to be lost here, at least not to the extent of what has been happening in this war, but I'm not so sure if I entirely agree with what the right is saying. So the point of today's video is to go over this Ukraine war and the results of it, and looking at it from as unbiased of a perspective as possible. I sincerely hope you enjoy the video and you get some valuable information from this regarding the Ukraine war. But with that being said, let's go over a few things. Now to start this video off, it's very important to note the difference between how the left views this war and how the right views it. Now, the left claims that the Ukraine war is essentially what we had in the American Revolution, where we claimed independence from Great Britain. Many of them are saying the same thing, more or less, about Russia and Ukraine. They're also the ones claiming that Russia and Vladimir Putin are the ones who initiated this conflict in the first place, stating that from day one Russia has been bombing and destroying both civilian and military targets indiscriminately. In fact, there are some instances of Russian munitions hitting completely empty fields. They claim that Vladimir Putin is an absolute tyrant and a scumbag, and that Ukraine needs all the help it can get to claim independence from Russia. Now, from my perspective, this is exactly how the left sees this war, but this is how the right sees it. They see it as a pointless conflict that really never should have happened in the first place. They see it as the US wasting their time and their taxpayer dollars and equipment. And although the left claims that Vladimir Putin is the one who initiated this war, from the right's perspective, it was actually Kamala Harris who initiated the war in the first place, more or less. We'll discuss why that is here shortly, but with that being said, the left claims that we're essentially giving them equipment, Ukraine that is, via a Lend-Lease Act more or less, while the right claims that we're basically giving them equipment for free. And not to mention a hell of a lot of rumors of corruption under Zelenskyy, and our taxpayer money going toward the luxuries for the Ukrainians. That is how the right views this war. Now, although I can definitely see where both sides are coming from more or less, I also know that a lot of what they claim is either unsubstantiated or is just flat out wrong. Let's start with the left, for example, who claim that Vladimir Putin is the one who initiated this conflict in the first place. To that I say nonsense because, according to tdcenter.org, before the full-scale invasion, the vice president, that being Kamala at the time, led the American delegation at the Munich Security Conference in February of 2022. There she reaffirmed the United States' commitment to Ukraine's security and its readiness to respond to any attack by the Russian Federation. She also furnished Ukrainian officials with the latest intelligence reports to equip them for a potential invasion better. Despite President Zelenskyy's appeals for preventative sanctions on Russia and an increase in weapon supplies, including anti-aircraft systems and heavy artillery, Kamala adhered to the White House's official position. The stance reportedly caused some tension between the parties during the conference. I wonder why that is. Could it be because Kamala doing this essentially encouraged Ukraine to tell Russia, "Step to me, bro"? I see this action as nothing more than an escalation tactic between Ukraine and Russia, and it's a pretty good reason as to why people on the right are suggesting that Vladimir Putin and Russia felt threatened by Ukraine. And if any of you somehow think that's nonsense, I want you to refer back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Because not only was America ready to invade Cuba, risking nuclear war, but they even set us to DEFCON 2. One of the only times in history we've ever been to that point. And it was a miracle from God himself that nuclear war did not happen that year. Otherwise, we more than likely wouldn't even be talking right now. This also might just prove incorrect the claim that the left is trying to say that Ukraine actually paid for our equipment and weapons. Because if Kamala Harris is the one in charge of this, then I have no doubt in my mind that weapons were given to Ukraine essentially for free. Now, I will put a disclaimer here in saying that what I'm about to say, I don't know how substantiated it is, but there are a lot of rumors on the right which say that there is a lot of corruption involving Zelensky and money laundering and maybe human trafficking. I don't know for sure. Again, those claims are unsubstantiated and I don't know how factually correct they are. But now let's go over what the right is incorrect about. Now, yes, I do agree that this war was completely pointless and that there should have been actual peace negotiations before the invasion. And yes, I do agree that none of this would have happened if Donald Trump actually got a second term in 2020. But there's one particular claim that the right states which I just cannot wrap my head around, which is them saying that Russia not only has hypersonics, but that we cannot touch them. Okay, so the reason why I find that claim laughable at best is because let me take you back to the 1980s. Let's go all the way back to September 13th, 1985. The star of this story is Major Wilbert Doug Pearson, who is piloting an F-15, which, by the way, is one of the greatest fighter jets ever made. Bite me. And he was the pilot for a test project in which America would try to shoot down one of their own satellites. He fired a specialty anti-satellite missile, and the missile actually reached the satellite and destroyed it. This was back in the 1980s, CSO fam, and let's keep in mind that the minimum orbital speed for Earth is Mach 25. Let us also briefly talk about February 21st, 2008, when a U.S. destroyer, specifically the USS Lake Erie, decided to shoot down a satellite of their own from sea level. And let's also take a look at one of the most terrifying air supremacy fighters that have ever been built, the F-22 Raptor. That is an aircraft that is designed to beat the F-15 because nobody could touch the F-15. The F-15 has a confirmed win-to-loss ratio of 104-0. Not only that, but there was also a case of an F-15 in Israel having its entire right wing ripped off, and it still managed to land back at its airfield. Take all of that into account and keep in mind that the F-22 is designed to beat the F-15, the same jet fighter that shot down a satellite. So given all of these factors combined, even if it is true that Russia does have hypersonics, what makes any of you think that we could not touch them? Even if they were to go, let's be generous, half the speed of Mach 25. So these claims on the right saying that Russia has hypersonics that we can't touch is, I'm gonna be honest with you, is stupid. And to add a cherry on top of all that, not only are we able to touch those hypersonics with ease, but we also have hypersonics of our own. So as far as I can tell, that's where both sides are incorrect. But now I want to go over the numbers and discuss why the war ending is such a wonderful thing. Throughout the entirety of this conflict ever since February of 2022, Russia has had up to 700,000 casualties. Keep in mind that that includes soldiers killed in action and soldiers that were injured in battle. The actual KIA numbers in Russia comes up to about 110 to 120,000. And a lot of people claim that because of these significant losses that Russia should have surrendered in the first place. I mean, within a matter of weeks they lost more troops than we ever did in the Middle East. For 20 years, mind you. But you also got to look at the number of soldiers killed on the Ukrainian side, which although a lot of sources have a lot of mixed numbers, I'm going to suggest 80,000. So for every 3 Russians that were killed, 2 other Ukrainian soldiers were also killed in action. That's also not to mention the fact that even though Russia did shoot down some of their own aircraft from time to time, Ukraine did the same thing with an F-16. So at the end of the day, I'd say that neither side is right, neither Russia nor Ukraine. History has proven to us time and time again that war is chaos. And at the end of every war, it's not about who's right, it's about who's left. And no, I don't mean political sides, I mean who remains alive afterward. I am most certainly glad that this conflict is over, and I cannot wait to see what comes of this after, especially considering that there are a lot of rumors out there saying that Zelensky has a lot of skeletons in his closet. Those are all my thoughts on this, but what do all of you think about this Ukraine war and the fact that it's coming to an end? Please do let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your opinions. That being said, CSO fam, thank you once again for watching, and make sure to keep observing from a common sense perspective.